All right, so good morning, everyone. It's so lovely to see everyone's faces, and I particularly love when Justine is our liturgist. I love hearing her speak. Um, so this summer was obviously odd, and I want you to all know that we appreciate the gift that the Presbyterian Church gives to our camp every summer. It's really vital that we get support from everyone that we can. Fundraising was particularly difficult this year because so many of our grantors decided to spend all their money on COVID-19 relief and not on things that are normal, like summer camps for our children. I run a summer camp for children who are blind or low vision. Calling that God called me to. It's not something that I really ever envisioned myself doing. You know, when you're in high school and you make a 5-year plan, this was not it. But this is what God has called me to do. And it's not something that's particularly Christian, but we have a lot of people who are Christians on our staff. And we have a few people who are definitely not Christian on our staff that I still love and cherish, and hope that every day that they see more of God in the world as outside of them. We held all of our camps virtually this summer. We had 5 camps and a family day. We did hope that we were going to hold our adventure trip in person, but by the time it was time to decide that, it was pretty difficult to see if that could happen. We were planning on going to UP. So we made a switch to everything, for everything we did, everything online. And so how we did that was we designed crafts, designed cooking projects, and designed campfire projects. And we sent the kids all of the materials that they needed for those projects. So we've spent about $3,000 in materials and $3,000 on shipping to send all of our kids all of those materials. It was a tremendous advantage that we have blind people on our staff. They are the ones that are leading the programs, and so they actually just, the trick is to make sure that you give extra directions, because they can't necessarily see the screen. A few of our kids can see a little bit, but most of our kids are like Greg and can't see anything at all. So these are the things we did during our first camp, which was cooking and serving camp. We made a sock donut. We made spaghetti and garlic bread. We did a nature scavenger hunt. We did scavenger hunts almost every week. We did banana bars, and that's a picture of our banana bars right there. The kids love that because they get both butterscotch and chocolate chips on top. And they are really good. It's one of our favorite fan recipes. They made bird houses, and I have to give a shout out to Krista and Jim for this, because Krista cut all the wood for all those bird houses, and then we shipped all the parts and pieces to the kids, and they all made bird houses. And I think I've got a picture of one of the kids' bird houses later in this program. We had a bird call game where kids had to guess what bird Emily had on her phone when she would play a call of a bird, and the kids had to guess what they were. And then they also made burritos. So this was a highly cooking camp. Halen, who many of you have met, has come to church with us on occasion, did all of the leadership for all of our cooking projects. And so we videoed her making all these projects here at my house, and then played those videos for the kids to learn how to make those projects. Our second camp was Discovery Camp. We made homemade bouncy balls. We made catapults, so we did a lot of nature stuff. We did the nature sensory bin. We made a cell cake, which means that we made a cake and then we used all kinds of different candies, like red vines and, I can't even remember, Jelly Bellies and whatever kinds of candy to make different parts of a cell, a human cell. The nucleus was an Oreo cookie. So obviously the kids loved that one. They made soap that had jelly in it, so it was really slimy. Here's a picture of our nature coasters here. We sent the kids outside to get different branches and trees and leaves and stuff from outside, and then they put them on plaster Paris nature coasters. In this camp, they made garden boxes. Jim actually did all the lumber for the garden boxes, and so he cut all the pieces and wrote the directions, and so the kids made garden boxes and filled them with soil, and then planted lettuce in them. And I haven't heard that anybody had great lettuce, but they should have had great lettuce growing in their garden boxes. And we also made some chicken tenders because that's a pretty easy project. This camp is for younger kids, so we didn't go too crazy with cooking projects, but we did want them to have a great experience with all of our nature things and sciencey stuff. Cooking and jamming camp has always been one of our favorite because it's cooking and music camp. And they made a paper meal craft, which I honestly don't know what that was because I wasn't involved in that one. They made French toast, oven French toast, so they didn't have to do the flipping part. The flipping part is something that's really hard for blind people to learn to do. If you try it someday, try flipping your burgers with your eyes closed. You'll discover it's not the simplest thing in the world. So we find ways around that by doing things like oven-baked French toast instead. They did a tea test, and that's what you see in front of you. There's one of our staff members' tea tests. Emily went to a tea store and bought all kinds of different kinds of teas, and then sent the kids samples of those teas to test them. And I think none of our kids liked any of the tea, not even the chocolate tea. But it was a great experience, and so they were all like, "Ooh, that was nasty. Ooh, that was nasty. Ooh, that was nasty." One of our board members helped the kids make kalimbas and rain sticks. Kalimbas are thumb pianos, if any of you have ever seen any of those. They've got little metal rods on them, and then you click them with your thumbs, and they are different pitches. And so Marcia had a great time with the kids making that and making rain sticks. They made popsicle stick harmonicas, which I think are just hilarious. They only have one pitch on them, but you can make a popsicle stick, you can make a harmonica out of popsicle sticks. They made potato soup, which took a lot longer than anyone anticipated because of all the cutting of the potatoes, but the kids got a lot of practice cutting with sharp knives, and we really appreciated that. They did a music world tour where Emily played music from a whole bunch of different countries, and we had to guess which one was which. And the cicada craft, and honestly, I don't know what the cicada craft was because I missed that one too. Family Day, this is one of the birdhouses. We just put this picture here because I don't have any Family Day photographs, but you can see that this is a birdhouse that a dad and one of our campers was putting together. And he was a little confused as to what the screen was for. That's to go inside and help the little birds go up out of the hole of the bird box. They also made drop biscuits and a pan flute craft and had a nature hunt, and we had 5 families participate, which was really great. Then we had planned to go to Chicago, and obviously Chicago was not someplace you wanted to go during COVID. So we invented a Chicago virtual trip. So we had the kids make their own portraits with 3D-dimensional paint. We made clay out of coral, which was really unusual and very creative on my part of my staff. They did an excavation where they had little dinosaurs buried in some sort of material. I don't even know what that was either because I was busy doing something else this week. They had a virtual visit to a planetarium, which would be completely inaccessible to blind children if you think about that. But they still figured out how to do that in a way that was accessible for our kids. They did some negative space painting, and we made Chicago-style pizza, which is up in the upper corner there. You can see the deep dish in a springform pan, super deep dish Chicago-style pizza. They're going to fold all that dough over and make basically a giant pie. And then they also made pretzels, so that was kind of bread week. When we did our Chicago virtual tour. And for our adventure trip, which is a 10-day trip, we still needed to come up with something that was interesting. And since we couldn't go to the UP, we decided to do a worldwide tour. We had a number of people on our staff that were from different countries and had different ethnic backgrounds. So we had someone who was Greek, we had someone who was Polish, we had someone who was Hispanic but who was studying Asian studies, and we had a couple of African Americans on our staff. So we did things that made sense for them to do. And we have Dutch, and I see it says Delftware, but really it's supposed to be Delftware. So if those of you know what Delftware is, that's the picture there. She took white clay, white air dry clay, and gave kids sticks, which are basically just string that's been coated in wax, colored wax, and then had them make a design on there. And I will say, Halen was the most creative I've seen. She made a cactus that's there in the left hand or the right hand corner, and then she cut little pieces of the wiki sticks and stuck them in there so they stayed upright. So they were like the spines on the cactus. And so I think she left that at camp for future people to see. So in any case, we made a dragon craft, and that's what's on the right-hand side of your screen. We used recyclable materials and made a Chinese dragon. They made incense bags, they decorated envelopes. We did some Greek culture stuff. We did some Greek dancing, which is really interesting to try and explain to kids over video. But we had to explain to them how to do the dances, and our Greek representative was very excited about that. And he also led the project on making gyros. We made some button magnets, and we did some kugel, which is, that's the Jewish name for it. I've forgotten the Polish name for it, but it's noodles and applesauce and eggs. And anyway, it was an interesting project. And then they all made a bolero, which was a cup and a ball, the cup and ball game. And I thought that was not a good project for kids that are blind or low vision, but it turned out that the kids were actually pretty good at it. So I get surprised even these days. They made tacos, they made Delftware, and they made speculoos, which are a Dutch candy or Dutch cookie, Christmas cookies. We made Greek Christmas cookies too. So it was a really great project.
Now it's my turn. So I wanted to talk about Camp Greenwood. I was I was on staff this past summer, and actually the last 2 summers. So this was my 3rd year. I'm representing. I'm wearing my Greenwood beads. If anybody knows about Greenwood beads, they're pretty awesome. We decided to make the switch to virtual 3 weeks before our first camp. It was a hard decision for everybody on staff, and nobody who had been hired into that summer guessed that we would be doing completely virtual. So it was a hard thing to do, but we made almost 100 videos, not quite 100. It was like 95 or something like that. Those are all like pre-recorded videos. And then on top of that, we also did live stuff, just like with Mom's Camp. We did a lot of crafts where we mailed boxes to all of our kids. And then, as well as doing all the campy type stuff, the staff worked very hard, and all 10 cabins got a makeover. And if anybody has been to Camp Greenwood recently, before this summer, the painting in the cabins was really atrocious. They were a mixed match of random colors, and there were scratches all over the walls and stuff, and they are no longer. They have been color-coded, and beautiful, awesome work that we did, and then we've also put some decorations on the wall, so that is pretty awesome. And so for our camp overview, we did 7 camps. All of the camps were named for like electronic type stuff. Because we were doing all virtual, we wanted to do something different for all of our camp names. So we came up with fun names for all of our stuff so that the kids would be like, oh, I'm just going to Music in the Woods, but it's not actually in the woods, it's in my living room. So instead, we did virtual virtuosos, and things like our adventure in Survivor Camp, where we usually like go horseback riding and stuff like that. We go tubing. We turned it into kind of an Amazing Race kind of thing. If anybody's watched that, it was pretty cool. My personal favorite was the Wacky Water and Science Snoops, because instead it turned into cyber science. And we did do stuff with water, although all the things that we did with water were optional and they were not live, so they did not have to have water around their electronics. That was definitely something that we thought about beforehand. And then my personal second favorite was our last week, which is usually for our older kids. And we turned it into Fandom Week, where we did everything Disney and Marvel and Star Wars and Star Trek and anything that you can think of that's kind of nerdy. And we turned all of that into fun videos for the kids to do and fun games. So, and here is a picture of one of our lovely staff members with a stack of boxes that we sent out that one particular week. I think this was from actually our not the first week. This must have been like somewhere in the middle of the summer, where we had like a lot of campers one week, and every one of those boxes is going to a camper. So, day in a life of a camper. It was a really interesting experience because we did have a mix of pre-recorded and live stuff. We wanted to begin our day and end our day just like we do in a normal camp setting with chapel. Normally we would just say morning chapel and evening chapel, but because this year was a little different, we came up with Gatherosity, where we're gathering everybody together for morning chapel, and then our Connectology was more of a more in-depth kind of discussion with the little kids, maybe not as much, but the older kids, we definitely got into some great conversations, and so we called that Connectology because we're connecting with everybody on Zoom or whatever. We did have several live crafts and group activities. I believe a fan favorite was Dino Yoga, which is yoga, but with a blow-up dinosaur. And this blow-up dinosaur was rather large. I would not fit in it. So our tallest staff members were inside of the dinosaur, and controlling it. And then of course dinosaurs can't speak English, so we had to have an interpreter next to them and like telling people like what to do next, right? So that was usually one of our live activities that we did together, and the kids love it, especially when the dinosaur decides that he's really hungry and wants to eat one of us. Some of the main activities that we did, so for normal camp, we would normally have things like archery and boating and challenge course and do like our science and nature stuff, and then also have some sports where you can just run around on the playfield. Unfortunately, that's a little hard to do over Zoom. So we did all pre-recorded stuff, and we made these recordings, they were basically skits. So we came up with a way to introduce all of those main activities, but make them like really hilarious for the kids and stuff. So we did shoot, which was our archery thing, and no, we did not give them arrows. Instead, they made slingshots out of PVC pipe, and we gave them like little tiny puffballs. They were just about yay big. And so they could shoot that at a paper target that was also made as one of our activities. But the ending skit for shoot was actually a David and Goliath thing. I'm actually really proud of, because I was Goliath. Um, and Jake, if anybody knows Jake Dayringer, our camp director, he's like, you know, more than 6 feet tall. And he was David. And there's me, I'm about 5 foot. I was Goliath. And the way that we shot it, like the camera angles and stuff, made it seem like I was really big and scary, and that Jake was like really short and tiny. But at the end, then you realize, oh wait, he's actually like 2 feet taller than I am. So that was really super fun. So that also brought in, you know, some Bible stories and stuff into some of our activities. There are other things that we did. Other things that we did too. To bring in like Bible stories, random Bible stories that we thought really went well with some of our activities. For the Ark, which is boating, we did a skit where the whole idea was that you're supposed to wear a life jacket in your boat. And the irony is that I was the one who was not wearing a life jacket, and I'm supposed to be the waterfront director and lifeguard. So, we had a whole bunch of like screenshots that we put into this pre-recorded video of you know, random stuff that you might see on a boat trip or whatever, like a flower or a really cool tree, and then at the end you're like, oh my gosh, there's a tsunami coming toward us, and we get into a big storm, and because I'm not wearing a life jacket, I die. So that was boating. Trying to teach some of that, you know, life skills there, right? The Matrix was what we called our challenge course, because normally we have a low ropes course that we take the kids out to, and they learn some leadership skills and stuff like that. We took the challenge course and put it in their living room, and the people who worked on this video did things like moving chairs around inside of our retreat center. And the idea, I was not exactly part of this, creating this video, but the idea was to take a balloon and get it through the challenge course without using your hands or your feet. So basically you had your head and like your body, but you had to go like underneath chairs and on top of tables and stuff. So it was kind of crazy, and I'm sure the kids enjoyed it. Mirth of the Earth was our nature stuff. Again, I was not part of that particular video, but I'm sure that it was very highly entertaining, because the people who were doing that one, I mean, I think they employed some different accents, and I think there was a little bit of the Steve Irwin stuff that was going on there, because, you know, nature. And then our Go Play Win was what we did for sports instead. I do believe that there was some purposeful hitting of our counselors with like volleyballs and stuff, because the kids always love it when, you know, people get hurt, but in a safe way. So for the rest of our all camp activities, usually we do things like Crazy Counselor, where the campers get to dress up their counselor in anything nature. This includes dirt and lily pads and rubbing charcoal all over them, and then they jump in the lake. We do a counselor hunt sometimes, where the counselors hide and then the campers have to find them. Capture the Flag is always a favorite, and then of course at the end of every week we do Gator Games, which is a variety of activities that we do that include all of our main activities, our archery and boating and sports and all that stuff. That's a little hard to do over Zoom as well, so this year we did our Sherlock Holmes escape room, which I do believe was a hit. All of our counselors, we all split up into 3 groups, and in one of our cabins we actually have the cabin split into 2 rooms and the bathroom, and so each group got 1 room, and the goal was to get out of that room. And so we came up with like our general escape room type activities in order to get out of the room. And then we all had to work together to get out of the cabin. So that was a really fun thing. We had 1 counselor in the actual room, like on Zoom with the kids. And then the kids would suggest like, oh, look on the ceiling, you know, oh, that clue says to use the black light, you know, so stuff like that. And they were able to get us all out of the rooms safely, and in a pretty good time, actually. They were really good. They were really good at it. We did Kahoot quizzes. I don't know if anybody knows what those are. Kahoot is an online like quiz thing where you can basically choose any theme that you want, including Bible stuff. So this was another way that we introduced Bible stories and stuff, where it was basically like trivia kind of thing. But the kids can play along on their phone. If you just go to like Kahoot.com, I think it was, like on your phone. Then you type in the code that we give them, and then they can play along on their phone. So that was a great thing to get the kids involved. We also did a variety of backyard games. Our pictures here that we've got on this screen are, the top one is Dino Yoga. As you can see, there's our dinosaur, and everybody else is, I do believe they're in like tree position or something like that. I don't know. And then the bottom picture is me holding a spatula, because one of our traditions at Camp Greenwood is to have one utensil dinner. But the one utensil that you get for dinner is not a knife, fork, or spoon. It's a kitchen utensil. And we usually do this on spaghetti night. So it's definitely something that is hilarious for everybody involved. We also have ice cream. We have melty ice cream and spaghetti sauce. So great thing. So our last thing that we did was the cabins. We have 10 cabins. Every single one of them we were able to finish by the very last day of camp. So the last day that we were at camp and like cleaning up and everything, we've managed to finish it. They all have newly painted walls and trim on the inside, including like all the bathrooms and stuff. They all have new themed decorations. Unfortunately, I do not have pictures. I'm sorry. I tried to get Jake to send me some pictures, but he's really super busy and wasn't able to do it. But we have themes like campfire, and citrus fresh, and the beach. And I do believe we have one that the staff lovingly have called Cow Cabin, but it's actually Western theme. But it's a running joke now for all the staff is that we have a cow cabin. But I think it's really awesome that we were able to get all 10 cabins done in 7 or 8 weeks of time. We went through a lot of paint, and yeah, it was a really awesome accomplishment. So that does it for all of camp. I'm going to turn it back to Mom just for a quick look forward.
So since our Zoom, we normally haven't had activities after camp was over, because we were always just holding camp at our camp on the west side of Grand Rapids. But our Zoom activities went so well that we are doing an activity for Michigan Parents of Children with Visual Impairments, which is another group that I've been involved with since Greg was tiny. And that's on October 17th, and our staff is going to do it all. They're going to, and it was kind of interesting because the first 4 staff that I had that volunteered to do this project, none of them were white, which I was really thrilled about. We had 2 African Americans, 1 Hispanic, and 1 Asian person who had volunteered to do that, and they were making pumpkin pie, which is about as American as you can get. So they're going to do that for that retreat for the Michigan Parents of Children with Visual Impairments. And then they are also going to do a Thanksgiving project, and Halen is going to be in charge of the Thanksgiving one. She's going to teach the kids how to make mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, and something that she loves to make is called pumpkin puffs. And then there's going to be a Christmas one too, where they're going to make cookies and ornaments. And then there's hopefully going to be some activities through January, through April at least, during the school year. So that'll keep our kids connected in a special way, which I'm really looking forward to, because we haven't been able to do anything like that in the past because we never thought about doing Zoom. And Zoom has become the thing. So that's what's really super cool. I did want to mention that our staff spent half of the summer actually at camp and half of it in Zoom mode. So our staff were to get together, and they did go through staff training. Of course, it wasn't the same without children there, but they still got the opportunity to learn. And like I said, at least half our staff are blind or visually impaired, and so they need that job training, and they need to understand what it's like to have to be where you're supposed to be every morning, and being available to do the work that we need done. So there you go. That's Krista's turn.
So just as a quick looking forward for Camp Greenwood, I have sent out a thing in, I guess it was in the newsletter, or maybe it was just an email or something, that we are in the middle of a capital campaign in order to purchase the Camp Greenwood property. The organization that is running the programming and staffing and everything at Camp Greenwood does not own the property. So we are currently trying to raise the funds in order to prevent it from being sold to developers. Because by I think next year is our deadline. Otherwise, it'll probably go on market for developers. And so anyway, if you would like to help support us, please, we have an online auction going on right now through, I think it's October 16. There are some really awesome items, including like some great vacation stays. There's one in, oh shoot, where was it? Somewhere on one of the like Florida islands or something like that. Somewhere like really far south, tropics. I mean, beautiful stay that usually goes for like several $100 a night, more than that. Anyway, it's a great thing. Some vacation stays. There's some great artwork and stuff on there. Also, if you're looking for something for your home. We are also having a in-person and virtual 5K on October 10. If you would like a t-shirt for that, please sign up by tomorrow, I think, is what Jake told me. And you do not actually have to do the 5K, just so you know. If you want to, then we would appreciate having some people at camp. It's all outdoors, obviously, so mask will be required if you do go indoors. But the in-person stuff is all, socially distanced, stuff like that. If you want to do virtual, you can plan out your own 5K around your house or something like that, or just not do the 5K, which would be okay. We are also doing a work day and our annual meeting for Greenwood Ministries Association on October 17th. So the morning for that is going to be full of getting camp ready for winter. And this is where I'd like to see if any groups at church, if any individuals, if you want to do like cutting up wood for us, for firewood, or raking leaves. We have to get our deep docks and our shallow docks out of the water. You do not have to get wet. And like all that type of stuff to get camp ready for winter. That's going to be the morning of the 17th. Please contact Jake if you want to help with that. We always need more volunteers. And then obviously you are invited to the lunch and the annual meeting that will follow if you're interested in the goings on of Greenwood Ministries. So yeah, that's all I got. Mom, did you have anything else? No, Mom's done.
Questions?
Yeah, so Bill, are we still muted? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Shirley. You
Okay.
unmuted yourself.
Well, we are just amazed at all the things that you did. You're so, I'm trying to think of the word creative and innovative. Just you rose to the occasion for this whole pandemic season that we're in and did some marvelous things for your campers. It's just amazing to us. Very inspiring. You actually, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, this is really fantastic, Gwen and Krista. Gwen especially, it's almost like a little mini mission fair. So it's really nice because we don't always get to see as much as you presented from organizations that the church contributes to. So
Sure.
that's very,
I am thrilled that the church supports what we do, and I wanted to share what we did because it was so highly creative, and I was so proud of my staff for coming up with all those ways to share with our kids and keep them involved and keep them learning. So thank
And
you, Willie. Appreciate that.
if I may, I was really gratified to see that the Chicago trip actually happened, even virtually, because I was part of some of the initial planning for that when we were going to be going to Chicago, actually. So I was really gratified to see that that actually went off virtually. But I did have a question for both of you. Do you feel like Zoom and this year has allowed for more diversity in reaching campers and with your staff as well? I know that you've intentionally been trying to do more work with diversity, but I'm curious if you have anything to say about that.
We had a fairly diverse group of campers. We had more white people than usual, but we still had representatives from the African American and the Asian and the Hispanic communities as campers as well as on our staff. So it's really important to me to keep as much variety in our staff as we possibly can, just because our kids need to see people like them. Even if they can't see them, they can tell by the way they talk and different ways that they know that these people have similar things to them. So, but really, the interesting thing about working in the blindness world is that what people look like doesn't matter as much as what they sound like and what they act like. And I think that's a lesson we can all learn from.
Another,
I would say on the Camp Greenwood end, that having to do virtual, to use Zoom and the internet to reach all of our kids, put a damper on the number and the diversity of kids that we could reach. I know for a fact that back in March, when parents were signing their kids up for camp, that Jake had several families that signed their kids up when we were still going to do in person. And then when we switched to virtual, they actually asked for refunds. And I think some of that could be because they don't have internet capabilities at their home, that they just don't have that ability to work with other people over the internet. And then, so that is definitely it's a distinct difference in our various communities, that some people have greater access to technology than others. And that's something that, as a summer camp, it's hard to help. It's hard to work with. As a society, we can definitely we can do something about that.
so that might be a disadvantage. An advantage might be that kids can sign up from far away, not just in Michigan, but
Yeah.
anywhere. They can sign
Yeah,
up.
Mom did have a camper from Texas.
We had a camper from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
We had one from Oklahoma and one from Indiana, and they are best friends because they both went to the Braille Challenge, which is in California one year, and so they met each other that way. It's a national contest for Braille reading, and
I've
so
been there.
they and Greg went when he's 9. So we can get a more diverse population just because of friendships that develop between our kids. So that's interesting. I see that Jan asked if we can tell us a little bit about my staff. I will say, just like Sally is very happy to be back at halftime, I have given my job as camp director to my friend Eric. Eric's been on our staff for 10 years. He is African American. He is also visually impaired, and he is now the camp director. So he is the one that's been in charge of making sure that all of these virtual camps happen since camp was over this summer. I had a really fantastic program director named Emily, who has decided to make visual impairments her career. So she is actually at school at Northern Illinois University getting a degree in teaching children with visual impairments. And so we're thrilled about that. That's a big plus because there's a huge deficit in many schools have difficulty finding someone to serve their children that are visually impaired because there just aren't enough teachers out there for them. So Emily's going to join the ranks of those folks. We had several sighted people on staff that just wanted to have an experience of doing something from camp, and because there were so many jobs shut down, I had a much better pool of people to select from for that. So that was really awesome, cool. We had one guy from New Mexico, a guy from Louisiana that actually came to camp, African American, and our Greek friend. We had a young lady in a wheelchair that managed to come to camp and really did really well, and I expect to have her on board as our assistant or program director next summer. And the gentleman from Arizona, he's married, he's totally blind, he's got 2 children, but he needs to find work, and so it's kind of a sad commentary on our society that a man in his 30s has to work at a summer camp in order to keep himself employed. But he is going to be our program director next summer, so that's pretty awesome. Who else can I think of?
Elise has a question.
Elise has a question? Yes.
Hey, well, continue your thought, Gwen, because I have a question for Krista.
Oh, okay. So anyway, our staff were we had a couple girls from Calvin College, one who did our nature programming, and Halen was our kitchen assistant, and so I'm hoping that in the next year that Halen is actually going to be the kitchen manager and I'm going to be her assistant, which I'm not sure she's really game for yet, but we're working on her, getting her self-confidence up so that she'll be willing to take the class to become a kitchen manager. So all in all, it was a really great experience. I was really glad to have that time with my staff this summer, and so yeah. Oh, we had a young lady who is Asian on staff who also had suffered a brain aneurysm when she was 14, and so she's still recovering from that somewhat, but she's a real go-getter, and I really anticipate having her on staff as well next summer.
Elise.
I had a question for Krista for Camp Greenwood. How many sessions of camp are there? Like, do you break them down into age groups? And then about how many children or campers attend per session?
Yeah, so each week, so like I said at the beginning or something, we usually we have 7 weeks at camp, and we did not change that for this summer. We still had the same number of camps and everything, and the schedule itself was the same. Our normal week, we might have, I don't know, like 30 to 50 kids, anywhere in there, for an in-person camp, where we'll have just about, maybe somewhere between 6 and 15 kids per cabin, and about like 3 or 4 cabins worth. But this summer, like I said at the end, we definitely had fewer campers sign up to begin with, and we had some people who requested refunds and stuff just because we did virtual. And actually, I talked to some people at some various churches who didn't even know that we were doing camp at all. So that could also be a reason why we didn't have as many kids. Our biggest week this summer was 18 kids, I think. And our smallest, we had 2. That was a rough week, trying to do Zoom with 2 7-year-olds. That was a rough week. They didn't want to talk, basically. It is easier to do, especially these virtual Zoom calls with a moderate number of kids. When you have the 18 kids, then it gets too chaotic. When you have just 2 or 3, then it's really boring. But yeah, we normally have the 7 weeks. One of our, 7 camps. I think that's 6 weeks though, because the week of 4th of July, we split that into two separate camps where we have mini week at the beginning of the camp, which is only like 3 days or something like that. And then after the 4th of July, we have a long weekend with family camp. So it's, yeah. So we did the same schedule basically this year, but we had not as many kids.
Well, Krista, I have a question for you about the future of Camp Greenwood. There's actually a 2-part question. One is, do you think you'll be able to come up with the money for the $1 million you're going for? And secondly, I know Camp Greenwood in the past has been used for high school band camps, because 7 years ago, I was there with the Olivet High School marching band. No, I didn't march or anything, but I was there as a cabin watcher kind of thing. Would that still continue if you accept it, if the ownership transfers over to your group?
Yeah, so band camp is definitely something that we do this year. We have had both of our band camps that we usually have cancel. And band camp is one of our big revenue things. Summer camp is not a big revenue thing. We do not ask like huge amounts of money from our parents and stuff and our families. It's the extra stuff that we do in the off camp season. Band camps, weddings. There's actually going to be an ordination for somebody at camp I think on the 10th. I'm not really sure.
Family reunion? Family reunion? Okay.
Yeah. Family reunions. A while ago, we used to have more churches actually rent out the camp for a Sunday and hold one of their services there, or have like church like get-togethers and stuff. In recent years, that has gone down, and we've gone more to renting out to like schools and stuff like that, and private events, and those are the really big money makers. As to whether we will be able to raise the $1 million, it will be a struggle. I personally believe that we will be able to make it. But the caveat is that if we do not raise enough money to buy all of camp, we will purchase as much as we can with what we can raise. And then, and even if we can't even do that, then all of the funds will be distributed to other camping organizations that have similar missions to Greenwood Ministries. So all of those funds will still go to worthy ministries that have, I believe, like Christian backgrounds. They have connections to the community like we do. What exactly those organizations are, I don't know. That's something that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But all those funds will go to other ministries or to the purchase of the property.
I know that you talked about winterizing the camp, but did you have the infrastructure to do winter retreats or something that could be like a winter theme to try to spread out the season for you and try to generate more revenue?
We do have, we've got heat in the retreat center. As far as I know, the retreat center is the only building that has like full like year-round capabilities. The dining hall might also have that. All of our cabins, though, we shut those down in the winter. They do not have heating. They do not have air conditioning. So we have to, empty the pipes and everything so that they don't freeze in the wintertime. So the cabins themselves are not used for winter. But the rest of the camp would be available if anybody wanted to do like winter camping or something like that. I don't know. Obviously, once the lake freezes over, then you might be able to do like ice fishing and stuff. I don't know. I'm sure that there are people around the lake who do some ice fishing. I've never done it. But you could do stuff like that. Yeah. So you would have the capability, like limited capability to do some stuff if you wanted.
Mike and Willie, did you have a question? I see your full image here. Well, we want to thank you to Krista and Gwen for your devotion to our camps. We love our camps. Camp Greenwood has been going for families since 1978.
This year is our 70th year of camping.
Yeah.
So that's
we treasure the experiences that we've had there. I have one of my favorite pictures is Charlie doing a baptism in the lake. What's the name of that lake? Woodbeck. So, I mean, just wonderful memories of the camp for families. And the camps, both camps, all camps have a saying that we all have, which is uncertain future. And we just will pray that they can continue on. I'm inspired, Gwen, that you're doing things during the year with your campers. That's fantastic. So we just will pray for the camps. We're praying for our nation and each other.